From the way that we use our energy and water resources, to the food that we actually eat, to the way we actually disperse our waste, and even interact with the surrounding ecology, we saw that these 5 themes were actually some of the most important topics to be discussing in terms of sustainability, in terms of addressing the needs of today without compromising the needs of future generations to come.
Sustainability is really about knowing your place and the role that your existence plays in nature.
For the past 6 years, Ideas has traditionally helped to develop university and K-12 school chapters that really empower students to address sustainability projects and take action. But there was a lack of cross-pollination. There was a lack of bringing together these chapter groups to work together. And so we thought that by developing a new program of Ideas for Us here in the community of Central Florida, we were able to actually bridge the gaps between our universities and other partnered community organizations, and even community leaders who are interested in getting involved with Ideas, to come together for a monthly think and do tank and really address positive change.
I remember about January 2013 it was, and Chris and Clay were hanging out and they were telling me the idea of it. And the idea of community leaders coming together and solving these global challenges at the local level.
We want to have inspiration from biomimicry, okay, from nature. And if you look at how different groups of organisms organize themselves, things that use hives do a very good job doing that. They're good at coming together for a purpose, a cause that they're doing, whether it's making food, defending themselves, gaining new territory.
And this concept of coming together into a home so that we can develop our honey, right? We can develop ideas, we can develop innovations that traditionally aren't happening while we're siloed in our own different groups. The Hive is a monthly think tank. Every single month we focus on one of those 5 pillars. And oftentimes we'll bring in subject matter experts who provide that core foundational education so that everybody in the audience actually feels that they're on the same wavelength in terms of what we're discussing. Once we actually bring them in, we actually go through a varied activities of different ways in which we can create ideas, divergent and convergent thinking activities, where we break out into little clusters and we discuss different programs.
We're going to ask each other, how do we see this global problem? And then ask each other, how are we going to implement a successful action?
And it's something that's going to make a difference in the community.
It's not just thinking and talking and bantering about it, it's actually getting to work and doing something.
So ultimately the Hive really brings together the subject matter experts and breaks everybody out within this group to crowdsource ideas so that we can actually become more resilient and these projects can actually have a better impact.
Ecology is everything. It's the stage that life holds its play on, and people are part of this ecology. Loss of habitat is occurring right here in Orlando. Invasive species are affecting habitats right here in Orlando. You have animals that were once very, very plentiful, now very rare.
So environmental organizations across the entire state of Florida came together to the Wekiva River State Park, and they hosted an event called Speak Up Wekiva to speak about the state of the Wekiva River and Florida's waters. We were talking about the incredible amount of diversity and pristine landscape and resources that Florida waters actually holds for our state. And unfortunately, we're starting to see varied issues in the quantity as well as the quality of this water in our state. And so Speak Up Wekiva really brought together these organizations to really start talking about some of these issues. But just like Ideas and what we do, we don't like to just talk. We like to take action. And so we partnered with the Department of Environmental Protection for the state of Florida, Wekiva Island, Keep Seminole County Beautiful, and obviously our varied Ideas chapters. And we hosted a canoe cleanup in the Little Wekiva River. And we ultimately got 20 canoes and about 40 different people and went down these tributaries picking up various different debris, in addition to invasive species that we were removing by hand.
Styrofoam, cans, plates, tennis balls, a soccer ball, a Snoopy snow cone maker. There were all kinds of things that we found just thrown into this beautiful river, and we were able to get them out that day.
And at the end of it, we had over 40 bags, potato sacks full of trash and invasive species that we were able to completely eradicate from this pristine landscape. And it was a way not only to get people engaged, right, about taking action to save our Florida waters, but also raising awareness and reconnecting people back to the natural world that oftentimes we don't get to interact with on a daily basis.
Things like deforestation, habitat loss, invasive species, all of these things have a way of affecting biodiversity at a local level that compound to be these global problems. But if we look at them at this local level and come up with solutions for these things, then it is possible to change them on a grand scale.
Educate, engage, and empower. It's the way that we've seen really these initiatives truly resonate with students and members who we've been involved with. The fact that oftentimes not everybody is studying environmental studies or sustainability. Sometimes they're studying legal studies or trying to become a doctor or something within journalism. But education around these core topics and challenges is critical.
I mean, the name is really a good thing. Intellectual decisions. I mean, that really says we've got substance underneath this decision making. It's intellectually based, it's science based. And then for the environment, that's certainly the ultimate focus, from global to local. And then for awareness, so teaching, and then for solutions, which is doing. So it's a brilliant acronym.
I mean, I think through experiential learning and going out there and doing these initiatives, whether it's food, water, waste, energy, or ecology, they're going to gain a way stronger knowledge and advocacy role if they go out and do something. So focusing on the solutions rather than the problem will truly allow people to make a more positive impact and have more confidence to go out and talk about it.
That's the brilliance of this group, and I would say the reason it's so attractive.
When you have education and you have engagement, you become empowered. You become empowered to become a champion and bring on more people and inspire others to get involved in this movement towards positive change and sustainability.
Big problems with food globally are things like lack of food diversity, monocropping, problems with food production, food sovereignty, also food deserts, and the aspect that many people don't have access to food that's considered to be a whole food. So many of these problems play out here in Central Florida in different ways, and this is part of what we're trying to do to solve them.
And you can see the roots basically grow, the water comes through, and provides all the nutrients.
One of our best partners here in Central Florida is Hive aquaponics, and he's actually established an aquaponics system in the waste space of a shopping center and turned that into a food oasis. And so part of the food pillar and this action project that we hosted was obviously an educational tour to show people various different alternative methods of growing healthy organic foods.
We can't reduce hunger around the world. We can't eliminate it, but we can certainly help significantly reduce it. And I don't want to give a person a fish. I don't want to show him how to catch a fish. I want to show him how to grow his own fish. If there's no fish to catch, what's the point? Grow it yourself.
Aquaponics is an incredible innovation that happens in the natural world. And it's the combination of aquaculture and hydroponics, using the waste that comes from fish to actually feed the plants and allow them to absorb all of the nitrates and phosphorus. And in return, the plants clean that water that come back to the fish and have this self-sustaining closed loop system. So these types of alternative permaculture and food growing methods were showcased at Hive Aquaponics Tour, and it's something that we continue to have volunteers come out with on a monthly basis to assist with. Take Root Orlando was the action project that we focused on for the food pillar. And the core challenge that we were trying to address was food poverty and food deserts here in Orlando. The Paramore community is one of the low to moderate income communities we have here in Central Florida that oftentimes does not have access to high quality nutritious food. It is known as a food desert.
You know, someone says, what do you associate food hunger with? You think third world
Third world
countries,
country.
Africa, but it exists here in Florida by Disney World. It's here.
So what we did is we reached out to Paramore community and we partnered with the community garden coordinator to help develop an action project where we brought out various students and people within our community who were part of the Hive to really help revitalize and add value to what was already happening there. So we partnered with Whole Foods, we partnered with Organic Sanctuary and a number of other local companies here in Orlando to bring a lot of resources. We brought truckloads of mulch, we brought truckloads of compost, we brought local organic plants that were already growing in sprout form, and we even brought out subject matter experts who held different workshops on grafting, on medicinal plants, on how to harvest, and even proper ways in which we can establish and start up community gardens. And it was a big success for us to be a part of that initiative, and something that we continue to go and visit and assist in over the past couple of months. Oftentimes we see that we are transporting our food and distributing it across our entire country.
There's no reason for me to live in Orlando, Florida and have to buy, spinach that came from California. There's no reason for that.
When you look at climate change, food has a tremendous impact. 33% of climate change caused by emissions comes from the production of food.
Going out to the Paramore Community Garden and taking root, and going out to Sahib's aquaponics installation and seeing how alternative methods of food agriculture are happening at the local level is a fantastic way for us to address some of these core challenges that we're facing across this country and even around the world. At our Hive events, we're able to really crowdsource people's ideas and perspectives about the action projects that we want to take to solve some of those challenges in those pillars. And what we are seeing is that there is a need for an organizing body, an organizing team to take these ideas that we saw at these monthly events and actually make them actual solutions, right? Make them an actual event.
Well, my role as far as being an organizer in the Hive is it's just that, it's organizing, which basically includes making connections with other community leaders, talking to other organizations, people that want the same things as we do.
I'm an educator, I'm also a writer, so I'm doing research all the time. So when it comes to finding an issue in the community and getting some background knowledge and finding the right people that are around who can help out, I'm good with doing that.
If like a project needs a certain product or service, I'll go out and hunt for it. So if it's something like plants for a local garden project or an aquatic planting day, or even if our little worker bees are really hungry for an event, I'll go out and hunt food.
I like to do a lot of the internal kind of organizing, figuring out, okay, what project are we gonna do for this pillar? What is like our metrics? What are we gonna try and accomplish with it? And just general internal project planning.
And without that team, these projects would have been impossible. It really took a collective group of individuals who saw the need for us to organize and take these concepts to the next level. And that was the hope, is that we inspired and empowered other leaders to take action. The human species is literally the only species on Earth that actually creates waste. Everything else interacts with a closed-loop system.
The inventions of plastic changed the entire world. Medical technology, fabrics, tools, all of these things that came from plastic had such a huge effect on the planet. But it also made people have a throwaway mentality.
As part of our educational component for the waste pillar in the Hive, we decided to take a tour of the local waste management recycling facility.
This is a mid-sized recycling facility that does around 98,000 tons of material every year. The size of this facility is about 120,000 square feet, and as you can see behind me, one of the materials that we process is aluminum.
Recycling is one of the easiest ways that we can contribute to a more eco-friendly and sustainable lifestyle. It's literally deciding on where you can actually put your trash.
I use the analogy of a diamond. If I were to take a diamond straight from the coal mine and put it right in front of you, it would look like a piece of coal, rock or something. It wouldn't look valuable. But once it goes through its process, It looks very valuable. Okay, same thing with this.
About 75% of the waste that we're throwing away as garbage that we think is trash is actually able to be recycled.
One of the things I've been told that 1 out of every 5 plastic bottles find their way into the recycling bin. That means only 20% get recycled, so there's a lot of potential out there.
I found out some facts that I didn't ever know before, such as the plastic bags not being able to go into a regular recycling system because it actually clogs up their sorting machines.
It was a great eye-opening experience for us to see, for one, how much waste is actually coming to these landfills and recycling facilities on a daily basis, and for two, where that actually ends up at the end of the day. So after the tour of waste management, which we held in the first month, we decided to create a campaign around single-use plastic bags, and we called it Total Recall. And the concept was to go to various different grocery stores and provide educational programming for customers who were going in and out of these stores.
People aren't really like using plastic bags because they love plastic bags. They're using plastic bags because that's what's given to them. And that's where awareness comes in.
We're showcasing various different solutions to single-use plastic bags. One of them is a really creative innovation that we created called T-totes, where we're actually turning old t-shirts into reusable tote bags, cutting the sleeves, making a couple hems at the bottom, and at the end of the day, having something that oftentimes we grow out of be turned into a solution as a bag when we go to the grocery store.
That's probably it, but we saved how many bags there? 4 or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4.
So we created over 100 different T-totes bags, and the goal was to replace these plastic bags from customers who were coming out of these stores and replace them with these T-totes. One of our members at Ideas UCF, his name is Philip Maxwell, is an incredible artist, and what he did is decided to add value to this Total Recall campaign by creating Plasquatch.
People kind of treat plastic bags as if they're free, when in truth there's something that has a higher cost than anyone really has perceived. We're feeding this monster that one day we're going to have to deal with.
So this is something that we're seeing have impacts on water quality and our ocean quality, as well as obviously marine wildlife.
And I got these actually from Brazil, the green, just to say that this isn't exactly a problem that we in the United States have to deal with, but it's something that's global.
He used over 1,000 plastic bags to create an entire plastic monster suit that was out there engaging with the public and also an eyesore. And it was a great way for us to actually have a photo campaign, a photo petition, so to speak, on, hey, you know, let's take a picture with Plasquatch and let's talk to you about the impacts that single-use plastic bags actually has on us as well as the natural world. And so it was a really great creative way of engaging with the community.
We unnecessarily create so much waste in our lives, and it's largely by accident. It comes from eating fast food. It comes from drinking water in plastic bottles. It comes from going shopping and forgetting the reusable bags. But if we just make a few changes, if we really make an effort to cut down on the waste in our everyday lives, one person can have a huge impact.
I think, you know, people want to be a part of influencing their community. They want to come out towards community development projects that are really trying to push us forward in a positive way.
You get to belong to a group of people who are dedicated to doing good things.
Everyone is just so committed to the cause. Everybody always is getting their 100% constant effort.
I can't think of anybody that would go out of their way to spend sometimes an extra 10 hours a week doing work that you're not getting paid for if you weren't passionate about it.
So many people want to be part of it, and boy, do so many people want to be part of it. It's contagious. That's the good thing, it's contagious.
Everybody who's been involved with the Hive since our inception has been people who are passionate citizens who are really looking to make a difference within our community and drive positive change. Everybody is interested in having an impact and shaping the way Central Florida actually moves forward in terms of sustainability. Energy is the scaffolding of our civilization. It's completely ingrained in our industry and manufacturing, in our transportation, and in our buildings.
The biggest problem, though, with energy is how it's produced. The sources of energy that we have. These are things called fossil fuels. And the majority of our energy comes from them.
Fossil Free Fridays was a campaign that we decided to move forward with in the Hive. The goal was to be diverse in these activities, right? The first one was an activity called Drink Beer, Talk Climate. And it was a way for us to come together at our local place at Wekiva Island and discuss how each one of the pillars are involved in altering our climate. So that discussion was very fruitful, and it was a great way for us to get out and be social. The second event was partnering with a local documentary called Switch that really asked a very important question. How are we going to switch from the energy that built our world to the energy that's going to shape our future? The third major event that we ended up hosting was the 6 megawatt solar farm tour. Here in Orlando, we're lucky enough to have Orlando Utilities Commission invest in renewable energy. We actually have a 6 megawatt solar farm that's actually harnessing the power of the sun in order to produce electricity for over 600 homes and families across Orange County. So what we did is we partnered up with Jen Cesaro and a number of people at OUC and Duke Energy and took people out to the solar farm tour to actually show them firsthand how electricity is made from solar power.
That direct current will come on the larger DC feeders to the inverter. The inverter is what actually takes the direct current, puts it to alternating current to be able to use it on the grid.
And we showed them that we actually can meet our demand, meet our needs of electricity without emissions, without noise, without nasty chemicals and smells that are coming from our traditional power plants. This was an incredible, pristine solar farm that's actually harnessing the sun and producing clean, usable electricity. The last week of August was our premier event for Fossil Free Fridays. It was called Lead the Charge. It was an all-electric eco car show that helped to showcase the future of transportation. And the goal was to bring out various types of hybrid and all-electric vehicles to show people what are the differences between these cars and why is it important that we begin incorporating electric vehicles within our transportation infrastructure.
The car is a 2013 Tesla Model S P85 Plus. They're in excess of 400 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque. This car will beat a Dodge Viper in a quarter mile. It'll beat a BMW M5. It's plus or minus 4 seconds, 0 to 60. No transmission, so there's no shifting, there's no bumping when it goes from first, second, third, fourth, fifth. It's just put your head against the headrest, keeps it there until you let off the gas. I shouldn't say gas, the throttle. To go back to what they call an ICE, an internal combustion engine car, you feel dirty when you get in and start it and drive it. You just do, you can't help it.
And so finally, we didn't stop with just those August events in Fossil Free Fridays. We actually held a final event in September for the Pillar of Energy. And what we did was we rallied around a campaign called Draw the Line. And the whole focus was to say, we're gonna draw the line on the Keystone XL pipeline.
It's a giant pipeline that's 10 times larger than the conventional pipeline that transports oil. And it's going to carry tar sands or oil sands from Alberta, Canada, all the way down to Texas to the refineries. The majority of the oil sands will not even stay in the United States. The majority of them will actually be shipped off to other countries. The oil sands in Canada actually have 22% more CO2 in them than conventional oil, which is a disaster for climate change. It's also in the middle of the most untouched, pristine ecosystem in the entire world, and that is the boreal forest of Canada. Forest the size of Florida, completely intact forest, is being cleared for this extremely disastrous process.
And so we took a ride and had just an amazing time really engaging with other people who weren't necessarily aware about this challenge, but that now are making more informed decisions to reduce their impacts and demand on fossil fuels.
I think out of all of the pillars of sustainability that the Hive tries to bring awareness and action to, energy is the hardest for people to wrap their brains around. It's something that we've gone our whole lives flipping a switch to have a light turn on. We're not necessarily shoveling coal into a furnace. So there's a general disconnect between where we get our energy from. But by learning, by going and doing the activities that we've done with the Hive, people start to get a connection to where their energy is coming from. When we were strapped for resources, we became resourceful. So we didn't have money to go out and hire people. We didn't have money to go out and buy supplies. We didn't have money to do all of the things that you would think this would take to put on.
There's a real commitment by people in the community to make a difference, and we've been able to find some great partnerships.
You know, we have people donate food, we have people donate utensils, we have people donate tools, we have people donate plants. And they do it because out of the kindness of their heart, because they want the same things that we do.
The Hive is a really great example of showing how we don't need a huge funding budget to still make a difference within our community. It just takes people who are willing to donate the time and the resources that they already have.
And I think the more and more that people see the effective solutions that we're able to bring in the community, they're going to be more willing to contribute.
This whole concept of the Hive could not have happened without partnerships. It was the organizations, companies, different students and civic leaders in the community who all wanted to add value to what we were doing and all give whatever they possibly could in order to make these projects and these programs successful.
Here in Florida, water is so important because Florida came from water. It's almost like an Atlantis in reverse in the fact that it's the corals that created the limestone skeletons that provide the bedrock foundation of Florida. We have more coastline, more rivers, more lakes, more tributaries and swamps than really anywhere else in the country. And water is definitely our most precious resource in the whole state.
Here in the state of Florida, we're facing two critical challenges when it comes to water: water quality and water quantity. What's happening is large amounts of nutrient pollution coming from nitrogen and phosphorus from our lawns, from old septic tanks, from our agricultural industry, is beginning to wash into these watersheds and large pristine areas of water. And because there's so much of an influx of this nutrient pollution, we're seeing eutrophication happen rampant. We're seeing large amounts of algae bloom and slime cover our waters. It's killing out different species such as manatees and dolphins. What we decided to do is really find a way to take action to address these ways in which we collect stormwater throughout our cities. So the Aquatic Planting Day was a way to help create a pristine ecosystem, turning a retention pond into a Florida wetland. And this homeowners association was spraying chemicals in this whole system. And that just creates a complete negative feedback loop, killing off even down to the microbial level of life that's in these ponds. So in order to combat that, we approached the homeowners association and we decided to divert the $500 per month that they were spraying in chemicals and instead purchase Florida aquatic plants and create what's called a riparian buffer along the shoreline of these retention ponds.
So these marginal species are very important for keeping off weedy species at the shoreline as well as stabilizing it.
And by planting Florida aquatic plants and by filling in this area with basically a buffer that absorbed the high nutrient runoff before it hit the water, we were able to reduce the amount of algae that was blooming in these ponds and eliminate the chemicals that were going into our waterways.
This pond was man-made, and honestly, it was just kind of a cesspool for sediment and runoff. And now that we've planted these plants here, this might be able to turn into more of a thriving ecosystem.
So it was an action event that had multiple different impacts, from reducing chemical maintenance to also increasing biodiversity locally here in the state of Florida, and also improving the quality of water throughout Orange County. In addition, we partnered with Sierra Club in order to create a conference called the Citizens Clean Water Summit. And this summit was incredibly important. Brought together over 200 people from across the state and 90 organizations to really start focusing in on what can we do to mobilize our networks and really influence legislators to push forward better water quality standards throughout our state. Because of our collective action of all of these organizations, we officially got enough signatures to put this Florida Land and Water Legacy campaign on the ballot for 2014. There was a lot of engagement that we were able to add to this overall campaign. And organizations saw that ideas really focused on getting people to take action and engage them in these issues. Not just speak about them at a summit and not just sign about something on a petition, but really say, what are the solutions to eutrophication and algae blooms within our waterways? How can we use and mimic the natural world and Florida's wetlands in order to actually solve these problems? So it really incorporated all three of our mottos, right? The educational component component of knowing about these plant species and how they're used, that the engagement aspect of actually getting down and dirty and planting something yourself, and the empowerment of knowing that your signature went to a collective 600,000 plus signatures across the state that got this petition on the ballot. We're continuing our monthly event here in Central Florida with the Hive at our new location at East End Market. We're very excited about new projects that are on the rise, including the Women's Rehabilitation and Counseling Center garden project that we're developing them, creating an entire food oasis in their courtyard, as well as an aquaponics system to educate the women and their children about the future of food. And in addition, we're starting a very cool program here in Audubon Park called Fleet Farming, a new pedal-powered urban food model that's really going to revolutionize the way that we actually produce and distribute food here in Central Florida.
We'd all benefit if it could continue to do all these good works, and if it could duplicate itself. And we have this model that is so successful. We should build on success.
Once we start to get more funding, or any funding, there's no telling what we can do.
That's what we'll be doing now, is finding who'd like to support us to go forward and continue with intellectual decisions for environmental awareness and solutions.
The flexibility of the Hive really shows that any organization anywhere can adapt it to fit whatever their needs or abilities or resources will allow to still think and then do action-oriented environmental projects.
I see the Hive being an established project in every necessary community around the world. Because why wouldn't you want to have a Hive? Why wouldn't you want to share ideas with other leaders, other brilliant people, other people that care about making your community a better place?
Well, this is a program, as mentioned, that is facilitated and directed by Ideas for Us, our nonprofit. And because we have outlets and chapters in different locations around the world, we're able to expand this successful concept to other places.
The best part about the Hive is that the people who come to it determine what we're going to do, what projects we're going to take action in. So in any community across the world, wherever a Hive starts, it directs its own destiny.
This concept of the Hive is something that is a community development model. It's a way in which we can replicate local grassroots action projects to really drive forward positive change, and we can do so in these different areas in which we've established ideas chapters around the world.
It's so important for citizens to realize that they're not part of a community, they should be making the community and creating it.
And I think that every single one of us has a chance to make a difference in this world. And the real change is going to come from collective action. It's going to come from each and every one of us taking a small part of our lives and doing the small part that we can in order to make a difference in the world. And collectively, that will make change happen.